Monday, 9:02 a.m. We're sitting in a glass conference room on the 27th floor in downtown Austin. On the wall, our company logo, Lantra Technologies. The table is polished to a mirror shine, like someone just licked it clean. The room smells like expensive coffee, brand new laptops, and something vaguely like cologne for leaders. The investors are in from Seattle, 2 guys from Cascade Ventures. They're dressed casually, but you can tell their Excel sheets are color-coded within an inch of their lives. The slides click forward one after another, and now the key product reveal. Greg Hill, our VP of Product, steps up like he personally invented the internet, clicker in hand, voice full of smug confidence. We're excited to introduce our new adaptive sensor interface, a responsive, real-time, self-learning platform that adjusts to human behavior in motion. And at that moment, something tightens in my chest. Because every single word he just said is mine. My idea, my architecture, my prototype. I'm sitting off to the side, near the wall, pretending to jot something in my notebook. In reality, I'm just counting my breaths so I don't explode. Someone from the team drops a message in the group chat. Greg is on fire. I put the phone face down, look out the window. 27 floors up, and the whole city is laid out below sunlit, buzzing, alive. And inside me, silence. Loud silence. I remember sitting in the lab 2 months ago, working late into the night, testing how the sensor would adapt to different scenarios. No applause, no spotlight, just work. The framework, the adaptive model, the fallback algorithms. I wrote it all. And uploaded it to our internal repo. With the note. Adaptive Sensor UX, concept draft by O. Martin. Guess how many people opened it? 1. Me. No comments, not a single question. But today, it's Innovation of the Year. Greg flips the slide and says, like he's pitching to NASA, imagine a world where sensors don't just respond, they anticipate. The investors nod, scribble notes. One even says, this could be the next evolution in smart environments. And I smile. Because I know he didn't read all the way to the end. Didn't see the lines at the bottom of the document. The ones that say, Provisional Patent Draft in Process, see Appendix B. He thought an idea was just words on a slide. But an idea is also a document with timestamps. And I kept them. I knew if I spoke up now I'd lose. Because Greg always has charisma, and I'm always too calm. So I stay quiet. But my mind isn't blank. Inside, there's a plan. Because I didn't come this far to be a footnote in someone else's pitch. I'll be the author when the time is right. 2 months ago. Somewhere between my second and third cup of coffee, between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m., I sat in a small conference room at the end of the hallway, the one everyone in the office calls the morgue. Because it's always cold and no one ever goes in there. I had my laptop open, papers spread out, my iPad with sketches, and I started pulling together everything that had been circling in my head for weeks into something structured, something clear. Adaptive Sensor UX, not just an idea, but an actual architecture where the interface adapts in real time to the user's behavior. Retraining behavioral patterns, feedback loops. In simple terms, a sensor that learns how to live with you. I could feel every part of it falling into place. Like I was finally translating months of silent thinking into something tangible. I built a diagram in Figma, wrote out the API integration, detailed the adaptive algorithm with fallback logic. Everything clean, structured, and most importantly, original. Mine. I named the file Blue File, OM-V1 docx Blue File. That's what I always call personal drafts that aren't finalized yet, but already mean something. Uploaded it to our internal repository, Lantra, UX, experimental, and marked it clearly. Internal R&D concept draft by Olivia Martin, do not redistribute. Then, just in case, I added, patent inquiry submitted. Legal ref number 3147P. I hit save, turned off the lights, and drove home. It was 1:17 a.m. Empty streets of Austin, just me and a podcast in my headphones. The next day, nothing. No comments. No Slack pings. 3 days passed. Then a week. Complete silence. Even though I knew Greg had accessed the repo. His name showed up in the logs. Access time 10:42 a.m. Friday. He opened my file. Said nothing. I thought, okay, everyone's busy, end of quarter, people are stressed, they'll come back to it. I even went back in a couple of times to tweak the wording. Make it clearer, just in case someone didn't quite grasp the concept. I replaced terms like context-aware logic with simpler phrasing, the sensor learns how you move. I didn't just want it to be cool. I wanted it to be useful. Alive. I wanted someone to look at it and say, damn, this actually works. But no one said a thing. Not even thanks for the idea. You know what kind of moment that is? When you give the world something you've carried for so long, and the world just doesn't answer. I closed the tab and moved on to other tasks. Production bugs came in needed to fix some UI mess in the cycling app. Small things, but urgent. And my blue file? Not a word. I left it in the system. With the tags. With the timestamps. With the proof. And I thought, let it sit, for now. Sometimes betrayal isn't loud. It comes quietly like a morning Slack update. Wednesday, 9:17 a.m. Channel. Number product announcements. A new notification. Greg Hill posted, excited to share a new direction for our adaptive interface work. Inspired by some great thinking across the team, we're building a context-aware sensor UX that evolves with the user. Think, behavior, first design. A screenshot from the presentation. And there it is on slide 3, my diagram. Redrawn, in a different color palette. But it's her. The formulas, the logic, even the label, responsive intelligence layer. That's my phrase. I froze. Then came the emoji avalanche. Someone in the comments wrote, brilliant, visionary thinking, Greg. And he replied, thanks team, I just connected the dots. Just connected the dots. I stared at the screen and realized there was no anger. No shock. Only emptiness. Like someone had taken the air out of me. I politely liked the post, so no one would suspect anything. Opened Zoom, talked about a different project, answered questions, smiled. Inside silence. Like in a museum after closing when you're the only one left in the room. After the call, I pulled out my notebook. The one with the yellow pages. Where I don't write to-do lists, but traces. Things that matter. I wrote, geniuses always have the right until someone asks for the source code. Then I just sat there, staring out the window. The street below was alive. Someone rushing to the coffee bar on the corner. Someone hopping on a scooter. And I'm in my little corner of the 5th floor WeWork in Austin thinking, what if they really don't notice? What if the whole office, this whole company, is just used to the ideas being Greg's? He's charismatic. He speaks well. He's the face. And I'm the engineer. The one who builds. He can say, the team inspired me. And everyone will assume I'm thrilled to be part of the team that inspires. But a team means together. And this is a show. Where you whisper behind the curtain, and someone else delivers your lines center stage and gets the standing ovation. I'm not naive. I knew this could happen. And yet, I believed blue files speak for themselves. That if you leave a trail, it will stay. But now I know, trails aren't enough. You have to know when and how to show them. I quietly closed Slack, opened my Google Drive, and found the folder IP Proofs. There it was. PDF export, created 11:43 p.m., the 3rd of March. Hash signature. My login. Legal notice, draft patent submission filed. I stared at the file and thought, okay, long game. You're the hero of the presentation. I'm the author of the idea. Let's see who's still in the credits at the end. The one-to-one room with HR all glass with a soft matte film meant to suggest privacy. In reality, it's the perfect stage for a conversation where you're expected to be polite but not too much. Emotional but contained. In other words, a woman in an office. Across from me sits Carla, head of HR. Mid-40s, gold glasses, wearing the "we just want to help you, Olivia" expression. She sips on an iced latte. I drink water. So, we've been reviewing some internal feedback, Carla begins. There's a perception that your presence in team settings feels a bit subdued, especially compared to folks like Greg. I don't say a word, just raise an eyebrow. We know you're doing great work, no one's questioning that, but leadership is also about visibility, confidence. Sometimes you need to speak up more. You know, show that spark. I smile. Not because it's funny, because it's the safest move. Inside, a monologue I've rehearsed in silence. A woman who knows is always a threat, especially if she doesn't curtsy before stepping on stage. If she speaks calmly, without theatrics, without 3 slides per sentence, then she's not confident enough. I'm not a saboteur. I just know that an idea without execution is dust. And in my case, execution happened. Just without a signature. Carla leans in, gently sliding her notebook closer. We think you have great potential, Olivia. But if you want to be considered for future leadership tracks, you'll need to be a bit more visible, like Greg. Like Greg. The same Greg who connected the dots I drew with my own hands. I nod. Not in agreement, just mechanically. It's what you do when you know a fight in this room isn't about justice. It's about style. A few minutes later, the meeting ends. I thank her, stand, close my laptop. Carla smiles. We just want you to succeed. Success. Such a pretty word as long as no one asks who pays the price. I walk out. Slowly. Past the company mural. Innovation lives here. I'd add a footnote. As long as it sounds like Greg. I open the door to my corner capsule. Sit down. Open the same file. Adaptive Sensor Interface Internal Prototype V2, PDF. I look at the date, the footnotes, the line at the bottom. Authored by Olivia M. Lane, the 3rd of March, 11:43 p.m. Too quiet? Fine. Then let the document be loud instead of my voice. While they suggest I put myself out there, I'll just keep documenting. Because when the time comes, there'll be no need for curtsies. Only the date. The name. And a patent number. It happened in the evening, after one of those company campus presentations. I left early not out of protest but simply because I didn't want to watch Greg explain our idea to investors again, using my language. The same language I used to write the original algorithm. In the parking lot, I was fumbling with the keys to my Subaru Crosstrek when someone called out, Olivia? I turned around. A tall man in a gray hoodie with an NYU logo and a baseball cap. Sam Reeves. We met at the Boulder meetup 2 years ago. You were showing an interface for medical audio monitoring. Ah, yes. Sam, an intellectual property lawyer. Private practice in Denver. Smart, fast, a little sarcastic. We hadn't really talked since then, but I remembered his eyes. The kind that spot risk before you even name it. He nodded at the notebook in my hands. I was still holding it like a shield. It held draft sketches of a new version of the interface. Navigation ideas I'd been working on last night. He squinted slightly. Is that your adaptive sensor thing? I gave a hesitant smile. Yeah, but it's still rough. Just R&D. Not going anywhere yet. He stopped, grew more serious. Did you file a patent? Number, it's not product stage yet. Still, just an idea. He stepped closer. Olivia, this isn't just an idea. It's IP, and if you don't lock it down, someone else will. Sometimes someone from your own team. A knot tightened in my stomach. He didn't know how close that had already come to happening. I tried to brush it off. I don't think anyone would actually... He gently cut in. It's not about intent. It's about documentation. Do you have a date? Do you have source files? Scans? Signatures? I nodded. I've got everything. Stored in Notion, Google Drive, an external disk. It's probably just a habit at this point. He smiled. That's already halfway to a patent. Don't waste time. Otherwise, in a couple of months, you'll hear someone call your work a collaboration without mentioning your name. Silence settled between us. I looked at my reflection in the car window. Staring back wasn't the woman who stays quiet in conference rooms. It was the woman who knows and is finally ready to act. Sam handed me a business card. If you decide to file, I've got a great patent agent. Fast, affordable. He walked away. I stayed still. The mountain wind was cool, but something inside me felt strangely warm. I hadn't expected a turning point. But it came as they always do. Not in the presentation. In the parking lot. Where motion begins. I woke up at 5:42, no alarm. Not from anxiety, from resolve. I opened my laptop, brewed a strong coffee in my favorite white mug, the one that says, "No, I won't join the meeting if it could have been an email," and pulled up everything I'd been collecting for months. Diagrams, sketches, lines of code, Notion notes, repo commits. Everything was timestamped. Everything had metadata. I knew exactly where it all lived, because I'd always thought a few steps ahead. Because in a team where everyone's trying to be a leader, I chose to be the architect. That same day, I messaged Sam. He replied in under an hour. "We're filing a provisional. That gives you a year to complete the full patent, and you'll lock in first claim. Important, everything created before the filing date, it's yours. The law's on your side." I had to come up with a title. I stared at the empty field for a while, then typed, "Adaptive Sensor Interface with Contextual Feedback Looping." Dry, scientific, no clever branding. This wasn't a story. It was documentation. I rebuilt every diagram in Figma, added annotations. Attached runnable scripts alongside the algorithm. Sam helped me tighten the language legally defensible, technically precise. We filed through the USPTO, a standard provisional patent application. $75 filing fee. I didn't even use my company laptop. Did it all from my personal MacBook? Just in case. Officially, it was all mine. Legally now, too. For now, quietly. I didn't tell anyone. Not my teammates. Not my closest colleague. Not even my mother. I didn't need sympathy. I needed clarity. On Slack, I stayed polite. Gave feedback. Closed tickets. Greg kept getting fire emojis for his insights. And I kept a line in my private draft. They think I'm quiet because I don't know how to speak. The truth is I'm quiet because I know when. It was the quietest week I'd had in a long time. No drama. No noise. Just action. And a legal file that would change everything. The next pitch took place in our 6th-floor conference room overlooking the Willamette River. Thursday, 10:30 a.m. Bright light, fresh coffee, cold air from the AC. 3 investors, one from Seattle, one from Austin, and a sharp-eyed woman from a Boston VC firm, Faye Litton. Tough, fast, incisive. I knew her type. You don't impress her with slides. Greg wore a suit, though everyone else had long since embraced hoodies. He kicked off the presentation and once again told the room how our team is developing a next-gen adaptive sensor interface that transforms user experience in real time. The slides were mine, the phrasing mine. But from his mouth, it all sounded like a sales pitch. No weight, no edge. And then the moment. Faye squints at the diagram of the framework, asks, "What's the logic behind the adaptive loop? How does it learn and respond without latency?" Pause. Greg looks at the screen, then at her, then back at the screen. We're still finalizing the backend. The system uses behavioral tagging and some ML predictions, but, it's evolving. Faye raises an eyebrow. Sounds promising. Who's the engineer behind the adaptive logic? Silence. A second too long. I almost smiled. Almost. Greg coughs, looks away. Well, we have a collaborative structure. It's a team effort. She doesn't break eye contact. A team effort is great, but I invest in people, not efforts. So who wrote the logic? He doesn't say my name. Of course not. Because if he says Olivia Blair, then the next question will be, why isn't she leading this presentation? At that moment, the Austin investor leans in toward the laptop. Sorry, can we go back one slide? The behavioral trigger system, is that already tested or still theoretical? I quietly press Alt plus Tab. On my screen, the patent filing confirmation. Date, application number, all locked in. I glance at Greg. He's stumbling again. Sentences unravel, meaning slips. The room no longer smells of success. It smells like fear. I pull out my notebook and jot down. The crack has formed. What happens next is just physics. The letter came from the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office that morning. Saturday, 7:46 a.m. Subject: your provisional application has been accepted. Confirmation notice. I read it 3 times, then just sat down on the floor by the window, coffee in hand, and closed my eyes. It was done. The application was accepted. Filed. My signature. My filing date. My diagrams. My scripts. Now stamped with marks that finally meant something. I didn't feel vindictive. Just calm. Like I'd finally placed a period at the end of a sentence others had tried to write for me. An hour later, I opened the company inbox. One new email, addressed to legal department. Subject: patent filing. For your information and clarification. Hi team. Just a heads up on date, I submitted a provisional patent application for the adaptive sensor interface I had been developing since Q1. Given the content overlap in recent investor presentations, I wanted to make sure there's no confusion around IP ownership. Please find attached. Submission confirmation from USPTO. Timeline of development. Slack exports plus GitHub commits. Original design files, sketches, and internal notes, dated and signed. Project tag in company repository marked Internal R&D O. Blair. I'm open to discussing licensing options under fair terms, should the company wish to incorporate the IP. But to be clear, the rights are mine. Best, Olivia Blair. I attached everything. Git screenshots, timestamp drafts, exported Slack threads where I had discussed the architecture long before Greg ever uttered the word sensor. I double-checked the signatures. The dates. Everything lined up perfectly. I hit send. Then I went for a walk in the park, Slack and email turned off. The weather in Portland was cool, the air crisp. When I got home and opened my laptop, I saw 3 messages from the company's legal counsel. One from the VP of Product. Subject of the last one: need to schedule an urgent meeting, IP conflict? I smiled. For the first time in weeks, genuinely. The system had started to move. But no longer by their rules. Now I had pieces on the board too. A week after my email, the real storm began. Greg was called into a board meeting. They wanted answers why the company's core innovation was suddenly not company-owned, but mine. An internal investigation started, officially procedural, but clearly tense. The legal team scrambled to find a way out without triggering a major reputational hit. And behind me stood my provisional patent filed well before any investor decks or internal showcases. Then came the twist. An article in Austin Tech Review surfaced. A journalist had uncovered the story. An engineer, long overlooked and dismissed for being too quiet, now holds the IP rights to the very technology that defines the company's future. It landed like a court verdict. LinkedIn lit up. Shares, comments, private messages from colleagues, industry peers, even competitors. Many called it a win for fairness. Others said, finally! Greg vanished from all channels. 2 days later, the company issued a soft announcement. Greg is stepping down for personal reasons. A gentle euphemism. His time was up. And me? I started receiving offers. From venture studios. From stealth startups. One stood out, a studio in San Francisco looking for someone who sees the architecture of innovation and knows how to defend it. I made one condition clear: full control. No compromises. I wasn't just the developer whose idea got stolen. I was now the owner of my work. and I could build a future on my own terms. When Greg tried to claim my idea as his own, I realized, you can't steal what's already been signed, stamped, and filed. I didn't just win a patent. I won something bigger. The right to be heard and respected. Chicago, a full-size conference hall. I stand before an audience, engineers, startup founders, investors. I never shouted in the open space. I just worked, and I documented, I say, smiling. Nowadays it seems strange, not being loud, not fighting for attention in every meeting. But that's how real innovation happens. Slowly, carefully, with paperwork, facts, and protection. The room listens. I see some nodding, others taking notes. I tell them how I learned to defend my ideas not with words, but with action through patents. And how that changed my entire career. The scene shifts. I'm sitting in a new office downtown Austin. Outside the window, the evening city shines Lady Bird Lake and neon lights. On the wall hangs a plaque, the symbol of my triumph. Martin Adaptive Interface, patent number US 11XXXXX. It's not just a piece of paper. It's recognition. It's a voice that's no longer ignored. I smile. Inside, I know, silence is not weakness. Silence is strategy. And I speak loudly through my patents.